Hi, I'm Lipatant. I've been making video games as a hobby for years now. Over the years, one of my favorite things to do has been to participate in game jams. It's great having to try making something from top to bottom in such a small amount of time. A few years ago, my school organized one. I went solo and I made a chess-inspired arcade roguelike-ish game. Inspired by games such as Vampire Survivor or Shogun King, it was a game where you were playing as a king-like beast, trying to survive as long as you can against enemies that are spawning continuously. The main gimmick here was that you could score a big number by doing a combo, meaning that you could try to place yourself in a risky situation where every move would be a capture. Also, there were a few roguelike elements, but we're just gonna ignore that for now. You know, usually I don't expect much from those games. You have to go fast and gameplay is often a hit or miss. After the jam ended, I realized what I produced was good. It was good, it really was. It may have been coded in pure C++, had no sound, no menu, but it just worked. In my opinion, the best part about it was the fact that you had to put yourself in danger if you wanted to score big. And we're just gonna ditch the roguelike aspect. So, what about now? I want to remake this game as something more, and for that, let's start from scratch. Okay, so, during this video, we're gonna try to make a gameplay demo. The goal is not to have a finished game for now, but a first playable prototype to see what sticks and what doesn't. As for the first game, we're gonna play a king-like piece, trying to score combos and survive, but this time, we're gonna lean more on the arcade aspects. There's gonna be levels, and there's gonna be a mix of scripted events and continuous spawning. I also want to prepare a game that will be playable on multiple devices, console, PC and mobile. But for this demo, and only this demo, it's gonna be also available on web browsers. Shall we begin? Let's start by initializing the project. For that, I'm choosing the Godot engine, an open source, versatile video game engine. After importing everything I needed, I started making a prototype where you had a checkerboard and you could move your own character. Of course, lazy as I am, I just imported sprites from a previous game called Grim Atchesses. A bit of enemy AI later and the basic spawning mechanics, and now it's somehow playable. I think it's time to explain how everything works. The level is a simple node, an object including others. Level 2D, as it's called, is responsible for loading a level 5. Then, Level 2D manages everything related to gameplay. It places characters, manages those, and executes the main logic of the game. To detect a placeable element, it connects through signals, detecting when anything is added, moved, or removed. Then, as said previously, every placeable element comes from the placeable 2D class. From placeable, there's the pawn class, specializing in movable characters. Finally, both the player and the enemy inherit from pawn 2D. Now that we have the barebone gameplay, we can add a simple camera and score. I finally decided to start making placeholder sprites for the pawn. My goal here was to have a small monster that looked like a chess piece. It's simple, but I like how it turned out. Following that idea, I drew the rook, being that bulky frog-inspired character. By the way, it was Saturday, so sorry my dudes. My goal was to show that it is what it looks like, but still feels at least a bit original. Next, the bishop. Starting from the shape of the chess piece, I decided to make it more like a horned harlequin. Then, I went back to the pawn to draw its attack animation. I like it. It's cute, it's silly, and it's simple. Later on, I added its death animation. But more importantly, I added the capture animation. Now, let's come back to designing more pieces. The knight. I think we should make a character like on top of a majesty. No, I made a horse like. Do I have to elaborate? The queen. It must be the tallest piece on the board, obviously. I went for what looks like a mix of a humanoid queen and an ant. I tried giving it a similar mass to the pawns, but a bit more complex since it's just part of her design and not the main focus. Every single one of those enemies follow a similar logic. After you move twice, they move once. To be more precise, they first tell you what moves they could be making next. Like, it's easy to spot, they start wiggling and displaying an emoticon. Then they try to get you. Alright, we will need to have some user interfaces. For the background music, the first thing I made when creating the game, well before coding the mechanics, was to make this piece of audio. The idea behind this track was more about the original version of the game, so it might not stay at all, though it should suffice for now. For the graphics, I used a panel texture from Kenny Asset and a shader from godot.shader.com. Now that it's done, we can add a main menu, a settings menu, and a pause menu. As said at the start of the video, we need a combo system. The idea is simple. When you capture an enemy, you get +1. But if you had already captured something with your previous move, you get an additional point. And finally, the more you change your combo, the most points you get. Alright, everything is ready for the demo. Or is it? We're gonna need levels and tutorials. Separated in two series, the content of the first one will be focused around bishops, rooks, and queens. Then, the second series will experiment with knights and pawns. Every time, the goal is to simply capture all of the enemy pieces. It should be enough for now. After having people test the game on an arcade, I made a few accessibility changes. I then prepared the itch.io page with the following description. Project Checksaber is a chess-inspired arcade game where you must take risks to score big combos. Seems good enough, right? In this first devlog, we went from an old concept to a playable demo. We developed the game while focusing on what is important for now. In the next devlog, we'll take the game further based on your feedback. From that, we'll be making a last demo before working on the final version. If you like this video, you can try the demo currently available on lipatant.itch.io for free. Your feedback will push the project towards the right direction. Also, if you want to support this content, you can share this video, that would be awesome. On that, have a fantastic day.